Welcome to Fairy Garden Discoveries, where STEM takes flight. Have you ever tried to paint a rainbow, only to discover it had ideas of its own? Today, in the Fairy Garden, Christella sets out to create something beautiful and learns that light doesn't wander randomly. It follows rules, quiet ones, waiting to be understood. Join us as curiosity, creativity, and science meet in the garden. Christella had decided she would paint rainbows today. Not paint them on paper or canvas or stone, but paint them in the air itself, where everyone could see them glow and shimmer. She set up her easel at the edge of the garden, just where the morning sun poured in like honey. Jars of water caught the light. Bits of glass twinkled. Dew clung to the leaves, sparkling as if the garden had already begun without her. Christella lifted her brush and smiled. Rainbows, she announced to no one in particular, should land where the artist intends. She swept her brush through the sunlight with a confident flourish. A burst of color leapt into the air. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, arching beautifully for one perfect moment before sliding sideways and splashing across a patch of moss. Christella blinked. That's not where I aimed. She adjusted her stance, narrowed her eyes, and tried again. Slower this time, with more care. The rainbow appeared again, just as bright, and drifted off, settling halfway up a tree trunk like it had made its own decision. Christella crossed her arms. She said thoughtfully. So it's going to be one of those days. Christella refused to be discouraged. She moved her easel 2 steps to the left. She tilted her brush slightly upward. She even whispered encouragement to the colors as she painted, the way she sometimes did when a picture was being stubborn. Right here, she murmured. Just right here. The rainbow burst out again, brilliant and bold, and sailed straight past her target, landing instead on a broad green lily pad near the pond. There was a pause. Then a frog slowly lifted his head. The rainbow slid gently across his back, wrapping him in glowing stripes. The frog blinked once, twice. He croaked. Christella gasped. Oh, I am so sorry. The frog stared at her, his reflection shimmering faintly in the water. He looked down at himself, then up again, clearly unsure whether this was a gift or a prank. Behind Christella, a few fairies giggled. Christella's cheeks warmed. I meant to place that over the archway, she said defensively, not on a frog. The frog croaked again and hopped away, still faintly glowing. Christella sighed. All right, she said. Something strange is happening, and it is definitely not the frog's fault. Christella sat back on her heels and studied the garden. The sun hadn't moved much. Her paints were the same. Her brush felt steady in her hand. Yet every rainbow seemed to have a mind of its own, sliding, bending, drifting wherever it pleased. She waved her brush again, carefully this time. The rainbow stretched, then curved, then vanished entirely. Where did you go? Christella asked. Nearby, a fairy with dark curls pulled back by a woven ribbon watched quietly. Her name was Luma, and she had been sitting on a low stone wall, turning a small mirror slowly in her hands, catching bits of sunlight and letting them slip away again. Can I ask you something? Luma said gently. Christella looked up. Please do. Preferably something that explains why my rainbows refuse to listen. Luma smiled, warm and thoughtful. When you paint, she asked, are you painting the rainbow? Or the light? Christella opened her mouth to answer, then paused. She glanced at the sun, at the water jars, at the mirror in Luma's hands. "Light," she said slowly. Luma nodded. "That's what I thought." Luma hopped down from the stone wall and joined Christella in the grass. She held up the mirror and angled it toward the sun. A bright ribbon of light bounced off its surface and slid across the ground. "Look," Luma said. "It moves when I move this." She tilted the mirror slightly. The light shifted instantly. Christella's eyes widened. "It's not wandering," she said. "It's bouncing." "Yes," Luma replied. "Like skipping stones across water." Christella laughed, delighted. "So the rainbow isn't ignoring me, it's following the light." Together, they experimented. When Luma turned the mirror, the rainbow followed. When Christella adjusted the water spray, the colors spread wider, softer, then sharper again. The frog returned, watching from a safe distance. This time, the rainbow missed him entirely. He croaked approvingly. Christella grinned. "I think I'm starting to see it," she said. "I can't command the rainbow." Luma smiled back. "But you can understand it." Christella looked at her brush, then at the light dancing between them. "Now," she said, excitement bubbling in her voice. "This is getting interesting." Christella knelt beside the jars of water, turning one slowly so the sunlight slipped through it and spilled onto the grass. The colors stretched wider this time, softer at the edges, as if they were breathing. "Oh," she said, "that's different." She lifted the jar higher. The rainbow slid upward. When she lowered it, the colors sank back toward the ground. "So it's not just bouncing," Christella murmured. "It's bending." Luma crouched beside her, misting the air gently with a spray bottle she'd found near the watering stones. The sunlight passed through the mist and broke apart into pale ribbons of color. "It changes when it goes through something," Luma said. "Water, glass, even air when it's damp." Christella tried again, slower this time, letting the light pass through the jar, then the mist, then the mirror. The rainbow finally hovered where she aimed it, soft, steady, and glowing. Behind them, the frog crept closer, peering at the colors with one wide eye. This time, the rainbow skimmed the water beside him instead of landing on his back. The frog croaked, satisfied. Christella laughed quietly. "I think we're learning to speak the same language." Encouraged, Christella grew bolder. She placed the mirror on a stone. She angled the jar just so. She asked Luma to spray the mist lightly. No more, no less. Each small change shifted the rainbow. Too much mist and the colors blurred. Too little, and they disappeared entirely. "It's picky," Christella said, half amused, half amazed. "Or precise," Luma replied. Christella paused at that. She had always thought painting was about feeling, about instinct, emotion, expression. But now she could feel something else beneath it all, like the steady rhythm under a song. Understanding. She adjusted the mirror one finger width to the right. The rainbow followed obediently. "There," she whispered. The frog hopped closer again, curiosity clearly winning this time. The rainbow brushed past his shadow but left him untouched. He stared at the ground, confused. Christella smiled. "It's not magic doing whatever it wants," she said slowly. "It's light doing what it always does." "And us learning how to work with it," Luma added. Christella nodded, excitement humming through her wings. That might be even better. For a while, Christella forgot about placing rainbows at all. Instead, she watched. She noticed how the colors sharpened when the sun was high and softened when a cloud drifted past. She saw how the mirror's surface mattered. Smooth stone worked better than rough bark. She saw how even the angle of her own wings could cast shadows that changed everything. Luma sat nearby, sketching small notes in the dirt with a twig. "This part," she said, pointing to the space between the jar and the mirror. "That's where things change the most." Christella leaned closer. "Because that's where the light has to decide where to go next." They tried once more. This time, Christella didn't rush. She breathed. She waited for the sun to clear a thin cloud. Then she lifted her brush, not to command the rainbow, but to guide it. The colors unfurled gently, settling across the fairy bridge in a perfect arc. The frog croaked loudly, startled by the sudden glow. "Oh, sorry," Christella said quickly. The frog blinked, then settled, clearly deciding the rainbow was acceptable after all. Luma laughed. He's learning too. As the afternoon light shifted, Christella finally sat back, tired but glowing. "I wanted to paint something beautiful," she said, "but I think I was trying to force it." Luma nodded. "Beauty doesn't like being pushed." Christella smiled at that. "But it does like being understood." She looked at the rainbows fading gently as the sun dipped lower, not disappearing, just changing. The frog hopped onto a warm stone nearby, no longer glowing, no longer confused. "I still love how surprising rainbows are," Christella said thoughtfully. "How they show up where you don't expect them." "And now," Luma said, "you also know why they show up where they do." Christella stretched her wings slowly, watching their shadows ripple across the grass. "I think knowing how something works doesn't make it less magical," she said. "It makes it feel kinder, like it's letting you in on a secret." Luma smiled. The last ribbon of color slipped away as the sun shifted again. Christella didn't chase it. She had learned how to find it when she needed to. Later that afternoon, a small group of fairies gathered near the garden path, drawn by the colorful stories already spreading faster than the rainbows themselves. "Is it true you painted one on a frog?" someone asked. Christella laughed. "Not exactly on purpose." She stood near the sunlight and told the story again, but this time she told it differently. "At first," she said, "I thought rainbows went wherever I wanted them to go. I waved my brush and expected them to obey." The fairies nodded, smiling. "But really," Christella continued, "they were following the light. When it bounced, the rainbow bounced. When it passed through water, it bent and spread out." Luma stood nearby, listening, her hands folded loosely at her sides. "So the rainbow wasn't being tricky?" one fairy asked. "No," Christella said thoughtfully. "It was being honest." She held up the small mirror and tilted it. A thin band of color skimmed the grass. "When you know what light does," she added, "you stop guessing wildly and start guessing wisely." The frog croaked softly from the pond, as if in agreement. As the sun drifted lower, Christella noticed how the rainbows changed without her touching anything at all. They stretched when the light was low. They softened when clouds passed. They disappeared when the angle shifted just enough. "See?" Luma said quietly. "Light is always moving." Christella watched carefully. "And the rainbows move because the light does." "Yes," Luma replied. "That's reflection, when light bounces, and refraction, when it bends as it passes through something." The words felt right in Christella's mouth. Not heavy or difficult, just useful. "So when I guessed before," Christella said, I wasn't wrong. Luma shook her head. You were noticing how it felt. Christella smiled. It felt wild, uncontrollable, huge. And now? Luma asked. Christella adjusted the mirror gently, sending a small rainbow exactly where she wanted it to land. Now it feels like something I understand. The frog hopped once across the light, paused, then hopped back, testing, perhaps, whether it would follow him. It didn't. He looked relieved. As evening settled in, Christella set her brush aside and sat on the low stone wall beside Luma. I used to think science was about rules, Christella said, about taking the fun out of things. Luma smiled. A lot of people think that. But really, Christella continued, it helped me see more. She gestured to the garden, the glass jars glowing faintly, the dew catching the last light, the shadows stretching longer than they truly were. Now I know why the colors show up where they do, she said, and I know how to find them again. That's the gift, Luma replied. Understanding doesn't shrink wonder. It gives it shape. Christella thought about that. She looked at her reflection in the pond, bent and shimmering. Like this, she said. It's still beautiful. I just know why it looks that way. The frog peered at the water too, tilting his head. For a moment, his reflection made him look twice as tall. He croaked, unimpressed. Christella laughed. Even reflections exaggerate sometimes. As twilight deepened, Christella lifted her brush one last time, not to paint, but to trace the air thoughtfully. I think I'll always like guessing, she said. Guessing helps me imagine what might be. And measuring? Luma asked. Christella smiled. That helps me know what is. She turned the mirror just enough for a soft rainbow to appear, faint, brief, and perfectly placed, before fading gently away. The frog watched from the edge of the pond, safely untouched. I don't need the rainbows to land everywhere, Christella said. I just need to know how to invite them when I want them. Luma nodded. That's how learning works. Christella looked around the garden one last time, now filled with quiet understanding instead of confusion. Beautiful things still surprise me, she said softly, but now they make sense too. The light shifted again, and this time Christella was ready. As the garden settled into evening, the fairies began to drift home, their wings catching the last threads of light as they went. The jars were empty now. The mirror rested face down in the grass. The mist had faded, leaving only the quiet hum of crickets and the soft shimmer of dew. Christella lingered near the pond, watching the sky deepen from gold to lavender. I think I said I wanted to paint rainbows, she said after a moment, because I thought that meant making something amazing appear. Luma stood beside her, looking out over the garden. And did you? Christella smiled. Yes. Just not the way I expected. She lifted her wings slightly, feeling the air move around them, steady and familiar. When I didn't understand what the light was doing, she said, everything felt slippery, like the beauty might vanish if I blinked. She glanced at the pond where the frog now sat quietly, his reflection calm and green once more. But now, Christella continued, I know how the light moves. I know how it bends and bounces, and that makes the beauty feel reliable. Luma nodded. That's knowledge, she said gently. It stays with you. The first stars appeared, faint but steady, shining exactly where they always did. Christella tilted her head, studying them, not with the urge to capture or change them, but simply to understand how they fit into the sky. "I don't think understanding takes the magic away," she said at last. "I think it lets me trust it." Luma smiled. "And trust lets you create again." Christella laughed softly. "Even rainbows." She imagined the next morning, the sun rising, the dew returning, the light waiting patiently to be guided. She didn't feel the need to rush or exaggerate or make things grander than they were. The frog hopped once, then twice, settling near the water's edge. He glanced at Christella, then at the pond, where his reflection shimmered faintly in the starlight. Christella grinned. "Don't worry," she told him. "No surprise rainbows tonight." The frog croaked, satisfied. Christella spread her wings gently, feeling their strength, their truth. Some things feel beautiful because they surprise us. Some things are beautiful because we understand them. Learning, she realized, helps us know the difference. And love, both, all the same.